You know, everybody always, the kids are our future. And you know, I personally had a hard time grasping a lot of the extracurricular things that we have in our schools. But as I got to see what the music program meant to some kids, what the after-school programs meant to the kids, it's all part of the full development of the individual.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the arts too. My wife and I own a performing arts school. Now she's the director, I'm just the janitor, okay? But the thing is, that's a program that it's sort of a finishing school. I'd say there's a lot of kids that are interested in those, in voice or dance or acting, that do it with the school, and they come to my wife's studio sort of to get the polish before they go off and maybe make a career out of it. And this is not a commercial for that. This is really, the point is, there's a lot of interest with those kids in getting that, and I think it starts at the school. The interest starts at the school. It's very important. We don't want to have our enrollment increase because the schools are cutting it. We actually, you know, benefit from having kids interested in the school, and we actually use the Whitman High School for our end of the year show. So I think that, right, that's one of the first things that's been put on the chopping block, and it's horrible. I think it's absolutely the wrong thing to do. Arts are certainly one of the important things, and I don't mean to say sports aren't important. Now, you know, at Whitman Hanson last night, there was a discussion about raising, you know, sports fees from $250 to $300 now. It's going to cause kids to hit that tipping point where maybe they just can't be in that sports program anymore. And maybe the local Y can pick up some of the slack, but, you know, I'm sure they're going to hit a maximum. And, you know, it's going to get to the point where, you know, and I think East Bridgewater's got Parks and Recs that, you know, they've got some strain on their system right now. So, you know, these kids are going to need to find a place to go, not just for the arts, but for sports as well.
Yeah, and it's funny because I work with a lot of folks from Whitman and Abington, and it's a common theme all the way across. And you mentioned, you know, I want to touch on two things. Sports. You know, sports are another part of it. Kids love it, being part of a team, being part of a group, teaches you discipline. Now, if I remember correctly, I think they're raising fees to $450
Is that what it is here? Yeah.
In East Bridgewater.
And you've got transportation increases for buses. I mean, to get here for...
It's a shame that we're forced to be to this level.
Right.
And then you mentioned the Recreation Commission. The Recreation Commission actually came about while I was on the Board of Selectmen, okay? And it came about because kids had nothing to do. Families had nothing to do. When I first moved here in '92, there were all sorts of little things to do, and it just slowly went away. And a couple of years ago, probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we had a big problem with loitering, et cetera, things like that with the kids. We had to pass an ordinance, and all sorts of stuff went on. But that's just, they have nothing to do. I have to praise the Rec Commission because they self-fund themselves. They have a revolving account, but it doesn't bring in enough.
Right.
You know, I was in a local town probably 2 years ago during the summer at the high school doing something, and they had a wonderful program going on. Kids were there, and they had a park on the side, and they had basketball hoops set up, and they had all sorts of stuff going on. And that was my dream for East Bridgewater. I'd like to see that across everywhere.
You know what is nice though? You do have the summer concert series, so that's nice. People get out there, and that's exactly what you're talking about. The interaction that goes on when people actually get out, get off the internet, and see each other face to face, have a chance to talk. And I agree that it is something that's more important. And again, the kids in this day and age, you can't just let them run around like they used to. And so now parents kind of have to be out there as well. You need to have sort of activities that parents and kids can be at. And so the summer concert's one step in the right direction.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the budget crisis in East Bridgewater is what it is. What's going on in Whitman?
Whitman, facing our similar. We're in a slightly better situation. Abington is a completely different story. I can touch on that later. But Whitman, we're going to get by. I'd say we're level funding everything. We've asked everybody to take level funding. All the departments, no raises for any of the department heads, town employees. So we're at a level fund. Our school budget, though, with the Whitman Hanson Regional School District, is about $2 million behind where they need to be. So they're going to be looking at cuts. They're asking for an increased assessment of 6%, and right now the town, we would have to make cuts as a town to police, fire, different departments if we had that 6% assessment. So we're right at basically that razor's edge of falling off the budget or just getting by, basically. And so we've got that town meeting on Monday, the 3rd, and that's going to be important for all the citizens to get out and again express what they want to do with this thing. I know the school's got some ideas, but they're bracing for the worst. Abington's an even worse situation. They closed the school last year, had mid-year cuts on teachers. They are now facing one, even two schools being closed in this next coming budget, the Folio. So it's.
But didn't Abington have a 2.5 override to fix this problem last year or the year before?
No, they had an override vote last year, but it didn't pass. It didn't pass.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So and then this year they just had to have 3 ballot initiatives on during the same day as their town elections. Luckily, those passed. Those were some debt exclusions that helped them shore up their budget. But the fact of the matter is, they are still facing a potential override vote, and so they moved their town meeting later too. I believe they've moved their town meeting to June, but I'll double check that. And because they're trying to still assess, they're trying to figure out basically from the state what they can potentially expect. I think the state, again, the schools are in an awkward position because they've got to ask the towns for X amount.
Yep.
And you can't ask for more at town meeting. You can only go down. So they have to assess at a certain level they think the towns might be able to afford, and then play the waiting game of what's the state really going to give them. Now, last year the state patched the budgets with stimulus money, the ARRA funds. This year, that race to the top money it's been indicated that it's not available. So transportation monies are down. For a regional school, which is what Whitman-Hanson is, they're down, as well as the Chapter 70, and it doesn't look like there's anything to patch the budget right now, especially when some of these measures aren't passing up at the State House. So they're in a tough position. And Abington and Whitman are basically in a real waiting game to see what major cuts they're going to have to make. But I know they've got they've lined up the impacts on when the budgets come through as to what losses they're going to have, and it's not pretty in any town.
Now, if I remember correctly, too, in Whitman, you guys are redoing the police station and redoing something else.
That's right. We're actually We're
and it was all within the budget. There
within our
wasn't
levy
an
limit.
override.
Yeah, we were able to. We had some debt that is expiring, some old sewer debt that's expiring. We were able to get the town to pass a new debt exclusion for that, and the payments are within the levy limit, and we can still have town operational expenses. Again, not with a major. When the school lost that much money and then had to make a major assessment onto the towns of Whitman and Hanson, that would throw that whole thing out of whack. But the fact of the matter is, we are able to build a new police station within the levy limit of what we normally raise in an average year. So, right, that's and that police station is overdue beyond belief. I mean, I think we were going to lose our accreditation on the station itself any day. I mean, the cells were being used for storage. I
It
think
was
we had
behind the town hall underneath,
It's
right?
kind of tucked in as a closet. It's kind of like a
Where are you
closet.
building the new one?
Where the old Holt School was, right next to the play
okay,
fields and
yeah.
across from the cemetery. It's
Yeah.
it's in that spot right there. So, in fact, they should be breaking ground within a month. So it's moving ahead. And actually, one benefit we raised it was about $10 million bond we raised for it, and that was also for some repairs on the fire station and the town hall, sort of wrapped into one. The bids came in significantly lower. Now, you got to wait till the construction's done, as you probably know. Nothing's done until it's done. But the initial bids did come in low, so that helps us make sure that we get everything we need for the police station to be operational when it's going to be delivered, which is in about a year. So that's good. And the police, I know the police are excited to move out of their station now.
I would, if I was living there, I tell you, I think I would be too. So,
And Abington, they had that new station recently as
that's
well.
right.
So it is you've got to have the right. We're talking about corrections officers that need to. You're bringing in people who are doing the wrong thing. If there's no space to restrain them or to properly process them, I mean, you've got a liability issue, and it was a major one in Whitman. So it was really overdue, and they did bring out the photos and slides last year when we were voting for it to make sure that everybody knew that this is way overdue.
well, that's one of the things. The South Shore, I think, as a whole, and particularly these 3 towns, have grown a lot over the past 18 years. I mean, I think when I was on the Government Review Study Committee, we showed a massive amount of growth from 92 to 2000, coinciding, of course, with the train coming down here, et cetera, things like that. So, that being said, you talk about you were able to do this within your levy limit, et cetera. So I look at that and I think about, oh my God, our police station is down underneath our town hall,
Right.
but Chief Collins has done a great job keeping that place up to date and what have you. But a senior center. Let's talk about that for a minute, and then we're going to go to I'd like to go to high schools and schools. Okay,